I have a little gift bag, and I know that while everyone here enjoys making cards, not a lot of people enjoy making 3D things, and I, if I'm really honest, happen to be one of them. But sometimes you need a little bag, and so I wanted to show you one where there's like literally no measuring. Well, I can't say no measuring, but you only need to know one number and there's no like pre-cutting. So maybe this is one that you can set aside for those instances where you need a little something. So I have a good friend who has a birthday this week, and when I am finished making the bag, I'm going to show you what I put inside. My daughter, hello everyone, my oldest daughter walked in, she picked it up. I did it in vellum so you could kind of see what's in there. And she shook it and she said, "Mom, did you just put a bunch of rubbish in this bag?" So, but I'm assuring you no, there's not. So let's start with our how to make it. So you need either your Simply Scoring tool or your trimmer that has a scoring blade on it. And I've said it before, but I say it every time. If you're going to do scoring on your trimmer, then I would really recommend you just take the cutting blades right out so that you don't accidentally cut. Now what I'm going to use is A4. Now I'm using vellum. You can absolutely use cardstock. In fact, generally I would use cardstock. It's a little bit stronger, but just the vision I had for this particular person, I wanted to use vellum. You can also use printed paper, and then you get a fun print inside your bag and on the outside, but then you do need to cut it to an A4 size because obviously your printed paper is 12 by 12. So you're going to put it in the long way. No cutting in preparation, just the whole sheet. And the only number you need to know is 2 3/4 or 2 3/4. I know one way's American, one way's not, and now I don't remember. So you just are going to score it at 2 3/4. I don't know, or 2 3/4. And then you're going to score it again at the next 2 3/4, which happens to be 5 1/2. And then at, oops, darn it. See, we all do stuff like that. And then at 8 1/4 and 11. But basically it's 2 3/4, 2 3/4, 2 3/4, 2 3/4. And then you're going to turn it 90 degrees and you're going to score it at 2 3/4. So for those of you who aren't familiar with how boxes go together, this measurement, this needs to be the same as this anyway, but that just makes it nice and easy. Oh, you cannot see that on the white. I did not think about that when I took the time to stamp that up for you. I'll put it on the brown. Oh, both sides are dirty. Darn it, I did not plan ahead. That's okay. Now, if I can find a pair of scissors, I'm just going to assume that some of you maybe aren't super familiar with making bags and boxes. So basically, you need to have along one side a skinny piece that is your, I call it a glue tab, but you don't have to use glue, but something that's going to actually put the whole thing together. So that's what this is, but you don't need this one because this piece here is actually the bottom of the box. So this is the only thing that needs to be cut off, that little piece there. And then I like to just kind of taper those ends anyway. You don't have to, but it just makes it a little bit tidier in the end. And then these pieces here are all going to fold in to create the bottom of the box. So these ones down here need to be slit. So basically we're just doing any cutting along that bottom piece, just taking that little section out and then cutting these little slits. Okay, then before we do any folding, I'm going to do my stamping. Now, of course, if you have printed paper or if you have cardstock, you don't necessarily have to stamp. And I see that my stamp's way over here on the other side of the table. And because we're using StazOn, we need to, because we're using vellum, we need to use StazOn. The water-based inks may never dry, and even if they did, they would take a very long time to dry. So now with StazOn, it is an alcohol-based ink, which means it dries very quickly. which means you need to ink it up on your stamp and stamp fairly straight away. I see I already got a stray mark. That's okay. So you don't like ink it up and then start talking and then stamp. You need to focus on what you're doing. And I'll show you the stamp set in just a minute. And also, because it's alcohol based and it dries quickly, also means that I would strongly recommend that you have an ink refill, because even just sitting in your drawer, it will be evaporating to some degree depending on how you have it stored and such. But you will need an ink refill with this one, even if you don't use it that often. Okay, so I'm just going to give that just a second to dry. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little bit shiny because vellum is waxy, so the ink doesn't soak in, it just sits on top, which is why we're using the stays on. And a water-based ink would just sit there and you'd have to wait quite a long time for it to dry. So the stamps that I've used, I should have shown you this first, is called Dandelion Wishes, and it's one of my favorites. I just think this is just so timeless and cute. And then the words that we're using are, here's a card. I just think it's a really nice, useful one. I'm trying to not get the shine on it, that has quite a few just card sayings on it that are good for card makers. Okay, then I think before I fold it as well, I will put the gems on the flowers. So the first one I did the pink. So these are the glitter enamel dots. These are discontinuing, but I thought they were fun and bright, and we have them for a few more weeks, so we'll go ahead and use them. So I wanted to do either the Coastal Cabana or the Granny Apple Green. Does anyone have any preferences on those? I'm thinking the Coastal Cabana because flower centers generally aren't green. I'm going to start with that. Now when you put your gems on, you probably don't want to have a gem right on a crease for obvious reasons. Then when you go to close the thing, it will probably just pop off. And I'm going to use 3 of the 4 sizes. I think that big one is maybe just a little too big. That's just my opinion. So this one here, I'm going to skip over that one because I think it wouldn't go that one. Coastal Cabana. I'm seeing a few people say. There is a delay between when I say something and when it shows up. Okay. All right, so we're just missing that one. Now we just need to crease it all together. So this is obviously the outside of our box. So we want to fold that glue tab towards the inside of the box and then go ahead and fold all of these. And I'm just hoping that ink is dry so I don't smear it. It's all right. It's not the end of the world, I suppose. I can just put something over it. Vellum's a little bit hard to crease, but we're going to go with it. It does make a cute box. So does printed paper if you want to use printed paper. Oops, I'm not getting that right on the crease, am I? It's nice to see so many of you on here. I thought for sure so many people would be at work still. So now I'm just folding up these little bottom pieces. Okay, so vellum kind of has a mind of its own. But basically, if that glues together, you can kind of see how this is going to now form a box, and these fold up for the bottom. Okay, so I was trying to explain the theory of it so that you know how it works logically, so you don't necessarily have to remember all the math. So what I've done is just put a piece of tape along here. Now vellum, of course, you can see your adhesive. So if you're using cardstock or printed paper, that won't matter. So if you're using vellum, I would just make whatever adhesive you're using really tidy because it will be somewhat visible. And I would not use glue. For one, it won't dry anytime soon. And another, it looks a terrible mess when you can see it. So the easiest thing is to have this glue tab folded inside your box And then just fold your box in half, making sure that that top is lined up. And then just fold it in half, like so. Okay, so you've got the box started. So then just determine, I'm going to decide this is the back of the box, so this will be the front of the box. And then we just need to then fold in the bottom. So the reason why I wanted to know the front was because that's the last one that I'll fold in, so that you've got a nice tidy edge there. And I think I'm just going to use glue dots just for ease and quickness. I would suggest you use tape. It's a little more thorough, but it takes a little more time to put it on. So for a video, I'm just going to use glue dots. Adhere those down. And then a couple of glue dots. Well, I guess glue dots aren't a bad choice if you're using vellum anyway, because they're very tidy looking. And then glue that front one down. Okay, so now you have your box and it's already decorated. So with this particular box, you can just leave it like that, fill it, and then maybe have like some tissue paper coming out the top and just have it like so, like this one. It would be cute just with some tissue paper out the top. Or you can choose to pinch it together at the top and just kind of create those creases. Those creases kind of naturally create along the side like a lunch bag or a popcorn bag. So that's what I did with the other one. But before you do any closing and tying it closed, you'll want to put your goodies inside. So I have some shredded paper, because shredded paper, for some reason, makes everything look more special. So I always kind of try and have some of that around, and white's always good to have. Now what I put inside, so this particular person that I wanted to make a little birthday gift for is one of those lovely people that's been crafting for longer than I have, has who knows what. I don't know what she has or doesn't have, but she's very time poor. So what I thought would be fun, and something that I would enjoy receiving, is just a bunch of cut shapes with words already on them, done in like neutral colors. And then when she's making a card, she just has a little pile of words that she can then just add. And they're already embossed, already cut, and it just takes that step out. So that's what I have put in the bag, and that's what my daughter asked. Did you just put a bunch of rubbish in here, she says. Okay, so I'm going to put those in there, like so, and somebody's going to be happy to receive this one too. And then I'm going to choose to close this one up. So what I did, now you could fold it over. Maybe back in our day, well, at least in my day, it was folded over and stapled for a lunch bag. But this time I'm just going to make it a little cuter. But you could do that, especially if it was like out of brown paper. That would actually be quite cute. And just going to punch a couple of holes with whatever size hole punch you've got. Okay, and then we'll just put through some ribbon. So I'm going to choose matching ribbon. This is Bermuda Bay, but Bermuda Bay is like the grandfather of Coastal Cabana, so it all matches. And you'll see that it's a reasonably wide ribbon, but these holes are quite small. So what you'll do is you'll cut it on quite a sharp angle. Check again which way is front. I'm sure I'm not the only one who finishes something and then realizes that you've decorated the back, or, oh, I've had several times in a class where someone has spent the whole time decorating not their card, but their envelope on accident. So just double check, and then we're just going to tie that into a bow. You might be wondering where I got this hot pink ribbon, because we don't actually have hot pink ribbon. I actually took the Whisper White seam binding and I colored it with the Stampin' Blend, and it works really well. And so I think, especially if you have Stampin' Blends, this is a ribbon that's worth having in your stash for that exact reason. On Friday, actually it will be the middle of the night that it gets posted, so Saturday morning, or it might be Friday night, but anyway, at some point in the next few days, I have a video where I show you 4 different ways you can use your Stampin' Blends. So I'll post that here in this group when it's been published as well. Okay, so that's ready. So we just want to do our little tag. So I have a 2-inch piece of basic black, and I'm going to use the, oh goodness me, I forget the name sometimes. I believe it's called the decorative tag topper. But these are quite good punches because you just push them in, and they can be 2 inches, 1 1.5, or 1 inch. And then you just punch them down, and it creates that decorative top. I felt it catch a little, just trim that up. Okay, and then I've just cut a little piece of Whisper White to match. So out of the dandelion set, the dandelion wishes, they have these little dandelion seeds. So we'll just stamp those up the side. Okay, and out of the, here's the card set, there's a happy birthday. And close up your Stays On ink pad. Definitely keep the lid on these alcohol-based ones because they will evaporate. And then I'll go ahead and put that on. And then, I know it's here somewhere. Oh, I totally forgot something. I could just see it now. It's all right, it's not too late. But before I do that, we'll do the Thank You for Being My Friend, which is in that same stamp set, but I've white embossed it on the matching cardstock. See, I knew you guys would pick Coastal Cabana. I'm just kidding. But I didn't think green was quite right for the center of flowers either. Using my black dimensionals. And then I kind of debated to have that centered or kind of off to the side, and I'm quite partial to having stuff a little bit off center these days. Now for putting on tags, this is something that I do a lot, like in my scrapbook pages and stuff. Actually, I'll move that down. And people, I think, sometimes tend to make it harder than it actually is. So what I do is I put adhesive on the tag so the tag isn't hanging loose. It just maybe looks like it's hanging loose. Then you can position it. I might do that way because it fits around the flowers a little bit better. And then you're going to tie on. Do you see there's like another piece of string here? So that extra piece of string is just decorative. It's already on how it's going to be. So what I am going to do this time, but there's, 100 different ways to do it. Just double the linen thread, poke it through the hole of the tag, slip it underneath the ribbon. Okay, so it's through the tag and underneath the ribbon, and then you can just tie it any way you want. I think I'm just going to tie it in a knot. You could tie it in a bow again, like so. So that doesn't even have to be super secure because it's not actually even holding anything. It's just totally decorative. Okay, so something like that. Now on this one I had some very tiny little pink enamel dots. I don't have similar for this, although I suppose I could have colored a pearl or something if I'd thought of it. But if I can find my little sheet, I might just grab one of these and put that on like so. Okay, so then the other thing that I forgot to do earlier was I actually reinforced the bottom, and particularly if your adhesive doesn't look very tidy on the bottom, you can then just add another little piece. It not only makes it stronger, but it just kind of tidies it up as well. So we'll do Coastal Cabana with this one. And you could do a piece on the bottom of the inside, which is what I forgot to do. I did that on this one, but forgot to do it on this one. Okay, so I think that's everything for these. I hope you learned a little something. So watch it again if you want to remember how to do the bag. But basically, you only need to remember 2 3/4, and that will make a cute little bag with any A4 size. And of course, if you want your bag shorter, you would just cut it down. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.